firing more bullets, but should it? Will those bullets hit their mark? To our Bulls and Bears, Todd Schoenberger, Ellen Karras, Mike Norman, and Toby Smith. Toby, so the shot, so to speak, of course, nothing to do with interest rates, had to do with rolling over some of these mortgage-backed securities into treasuries. How is that going to affect things at all?
Well, in the old days, when they did that, they were buying those from the banks, and then the banks would have cash in their hands, and then the banks would lend that money. In the new days we're living in, the banks already have $1 trillion of cash on deposit at the Fed, as by continuing to buy these securities or roll over and buy bonds, they're going to be buying bonds from the banks who are going to have more cash at the Fed until we get demand for the borrowing, and until the banks feel they know the rules on what this FinReg is going to be. Unfortunately, it's not going to do a damn thing.
Yeah, you know, Todd Schoenberger, Toby makes an interesting point here. I mean, basically, rates are at record lows. I think that Ben Bernanke came to the fight with a pea shooter, not his pistols blaring, because he can't really make many moves here. I mean, what is this going to do for getting basically demand back into the picture? Will it do anything?
Well, it probably won't, at least not short term. I mean, remember, over the past year and a half, the Fed has actually purchased $1.7 trillion worth of treasuries in these mortgage-backed securities. So going forward, though, they really couldn't do too much. There was too much risk if they really went out and did a full quantitative easing package today. They need to wait to see what happens because they don't have a lot of bullets left. There's not a lot that they can do. So if things do progress down and they progress slowly, then clearly the Fed's going to probably come back, especially for the next meeting. And they only have one more meeting before the midterm election, so there might be a earth-shaking moment at that meeting.
Ellen, is there any kind of danger that the Federal Reserve is bailing out the government, that is sort of with a nod and a wink saying, okay, we kind of support what you're doing and we'll give you the monetary support as best as we can?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the quicker we get out of the mortgage-backed business, the better. As a matter of fact, I am all for breaking up Fannie and Freddie and privatizing them and giving them to the banks to take over. And rates can't go any lower than they already have, so I don't see where there is room. Plus, we still need jobs. That is what is going to ignite a recovery.
You know, historically, Mike Norman, it's always been difficult for monetarists and the central bank to help out with fiscal policy, to David's point here. But, you know, we've been talking for 3 years of what is the Fed's exit strategy out of this, and will it ever have an exit strategy? Are we on a hamster wheel of the Fed continuing to buy treasuries, and is that a good way to go?
Well, you know, I think you said it, Liz. Rates are already very low. It's not, and Toby mentioned it. It's a question of demand. The economy lacks demand. And, you know, a 10-year, first of all, the Fed is targeting long rates now by this action of reinvesting the principal into treasuries. So they want to bring long rates down because they think that's going to stimulate. We're already very low. What's a 10-year? 280? I mean, come on. What's a 30-year? But here's the other flip side of this, is that the government is a net payer of interest, and that equates to a not an insignificant amount of income to people. When they start lowering interest rates, it equates to an income cut to a lot of people who save money. So you almost have the opposite effect. You don't get the stimulus. Look, I think the $26 billion in state aid is going to do a lot more than what the Fed is trying to do here with bringing long rates down.
I was with you right up until the end. You pulled us all right up until the end, Norman, and then we're all bailing on you.
What, food
and you
stamps?
try to pull us back into that argument.
$16 million, $16 billion food stamps?
Oh, right, I forgot. You'd rather we starve people to death as a way to improve
That's not going to stimulate the economy.
$16
I don't
billion.
know. I'll take you to the airport so you can get your plane to Russia. Hang on.
Hey, I didn't know we could all talk at once. That's pretty good.
And I understood them.
Guys, we got to move on.
We'll see you a little later. Now, the Fed acknowledging the economy still needs help.
But what they're...
The White House and most economists think our recovery is linked to the housing market. And if that's true, we're in trouble if our next guess is right.
Richard Suttmeyer from Niagara International Capital says housing prices will drop another 30% by 2014. He joins us now on what are you predicting this drop?
Well, the basic reason is appraised values of homes. That's the basic reason. You see, with all these foreclosure sales and short sales, it's establishing a price that's well below the market price. When you see these surveys that are coming out, they're telling you that home prices have gone up slightly over the last 12 months. But I suggest to the audience, if you're in a community where there's a lot of short sales and foreclosure sales, go to your county property appraisal office and see what your home is really worth. I was in for that surprise. I went a couple of months ago, and my appraised value was down 28%.
Wow.
All right, Richard, so let me just get this straight. From the peak of the bubble and to where we are now, we've dropped around 36, say 38%.
Correct.
You're saying another 30%. And that would
Correct.
be a record housing drop I don't think this country has ever seen.
Yes, but if you look at the Case-Shiller 20-city index, it takes you back to where that index started in 2000.
So it's wiping out the bubble.
It's wiping out the total bubble. The same thing that the stock market has done, and several other markets have come down and lost the gains of the past 10 years.
All right, well, Richard, stay with us. Let's add the Bulls and Bears into the discussion. Tobin, you think Richard is dead wrong?
Well, with all due respect, dead's a harsh word. I think he's wrong for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's no question we have a foreclosure and short sale, orgy going on here for the next 18 months. But what's intriguing, if you actually look at those sales, about 70% of the sales are going to investors who are buying up for cash return. We had one of those investors on last night on David's show Scoreboard. And when you look at these people who are buying, they're buying and holding and they're renting. That's actually stabilizing the markets, number one. Number two, we're now at some of these prices at 25 to 30% below replacement cost. And when you buy them and rent them, you're actually, it's cheaper to buy and own now than it is to rent. So we're bottoming because the fundamentals are bottoming.
On the other hand, Todd, you have Freddie and Fannie. Freddie and Fannie
and Flanny
to unload trillions of more dollars of bad real estate. So this market is going to be crowded from coast to coast with foreclosures. That's just going to add to the problems.
That's right, David. And, the 30% is probably being optimistic. I mean, you're talking about Freddie Mac that's holding on to $118 billion of bad loans right now. They need to do something with that. Not to mention the fact that supply is out there. You have 9 months of inventory right there that is quickly moving to 1 year once again. I can't see how this housing market is going to improve because, first of all, it's a depreciating asset right now. So it doesn't make any sense for anybody to go out there and make a purchase for a new home. Just doesn't add up.
The gloom spinning is about to, make me think I should get a, Prozac or something. But Mike Norman, can we have an economic recovery without a housing recovery?
I think it's the other way around. The question you have to ask is, can you have a housing recovery without an economic recovery? Because we had.
No, why don't you answer my question? Can you have an economic recovery without a housing recovery?
Because the question is posed wrong. I mean, you have to.
No, that is a question that analysts are asking. Why can't you answer?
It's based on the. Okay. Housing is a smaller part. I'm answering your question.
Right.
Housing is a smaller part of the overall GDP now than it was back in 2006, 2007. So answer, yes.
All right.
But in order for house prices to stabilize and move back up, you need the economy to grow. If it does, the home prices will go back up. Maybe not a lot, but they'll go back up.
Ellen, you can ask any question you want of yourself, and I don't mind after that. I'm not going to slap you down after I've asked you.
Mike Norman is a little tough.
Mike Norman has his way. But, Ellen, what do you think? I mean, are we awash in foreclosure? We know we are now, but is the future going to be even worse?
Well, I think it really depends on the geographical area. Like, for example, someplace like Fort Myers, Florida, where there's a glut, where you can actually get a free house after 10 early bird specials. I think that'll be okay. But in a place like Manhasset or Larchmont, where people say they're selling a house for $1 million, where they could have sold it for 1.5 a few years ago, I don't think they're going to go down to 700,000 because they still have, some people still have that 1.5 number in their mind that was what the true value is.
All right, Richard, you get the last word.
One of the things that the Fed stated today was lower housing wealth is a problem. That was in the Fed statement today. And so I will go with what the Fed has to say, and they're worried about housing wealth.
All right. The Fed brought us
Richard,
here,
because they've
and
been
the Fed
such great prognosticators.
We've got wealth in another area of the world. Time for Who Made Money Today.
All right.
By the way, Mike Norman, I hope you weigh in because you know I love you. You know you don't love me. Stinker. Big stinker. Well, anyway,
I love you. What are you talking about?
All right. Little piggies in southern France competing in the 35th annual Pig Squealing Championships. Yes. Look at this. Grown humans dress up like pigs and they squeal and they grunt and then attempt to impress 5 judges.
That's the audition for Deliverance 2 right there.
But there's more to this contest than just oinking. Contestants have to provide a squeal soundtrack. Yes, they have to provide a soundtrack for all